Motherfucker. You know, honestly, I'm getting tired of doing YouTube videos. And by the way, let us talk about the Cambridge Audio Dac Magic Plus. But before I do that, I wanted to say that this is actually going to be one of my last videos. I'm going to do a system tour video. I actually got rid of, I had collected a bunch of hi-fi since I've been in my new apartment over the last year and a half. But I've actually recently got rid of all of it, with the exception of one system that I really like the sound of, that really kind of I enjoy. And so, you know, yeah. You know, to be honest with you, I'm going to do this video, and I'm going to do the system tour video, and then I'm going to do another hi-fi audio product video that they're currently sending me, actually. And then after that, that's probably going to be it. I mean, it is going to be it, you know. I'm not going to take down my channel or anything, but honestly, you know, I feel like I've reached a point where this is it for me. You know, like, I don't want to take this any further. You know, I want to be something else, and I want to do something else. And spending time and energy and effort on doing this doesn't really fit into that plan. You know, and I think for me, largely philosophically over the history of my life, I've always been of the opinion that life is a series of steps. You know, some steps are up and some are fucking up and some are down and all this kind of stuff. But regardless, they're steps. And a lot of times for you to take the next step, it requires you to leave something behind. You can't, you know, get to where you want to be without leaving where you were. You know what I mean? And so I think for me, getting away from YouTube is probably going to be it. And, you know, and that's going to be the thing I leave behind, because, you know, like I said, it's just a lot of energy for me. I know that sounds weird. These videos don't look highly processed, and they're fucking not. But honestly, it's this scenario where I feel like my life revolves somewhat around this. And honestly, I don't want my life to revolve around this. So the Cambridge Audio Dac Magic Plus. Now, this is a little bit of an older model, and I'll show you the front of it here. Now, this is, I want to say, came out in like 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. I could be maybe 2010, but it is definitely the older model. And you know, one thing I always notice about Cambridge Audio is they always take their products, old products, they recolor them, rebadge them, and all of a sudden it's a new product. And regardless of what they might tell you, a lot of this shit sounds the same. You know what I mean? And I found personally over the years that DACs, differentiating the sound quality of DACs, to be increasingly difficult. That's why actually, if you look a lot of YouTube channels of guys that did DAC videos, you know, just a few years ago, these guys were busting out DAC videos left and right, you know, because fucking every week Topping was coming out with something new. And so they were fucking throwing something out. But regardless, you know, I find that difficult, you know, increasingly difficult to talk about the sound quality of DACs, because, you know, it's like, I'm getting like, I get to the point where I'm like, what the fuck does it matter, man? You know, this has an ESS Sabre, that one's got an AKM Velvet. Who gives a shit? I mean, you know, honestly, I think at this point, I'm getting to the point where I think if you think it makes a difference, you know, I think you need to have your fucking head examined. Truthfully speaking, man. So like I did in my last sort of video, let's look around from this direction. So you got your power, and then you've got source, you've got 4 different inputs. Now you've got around back, you can see you've got USB, you've got digital 1, basically, which is optical or coax. Same thing with digital 2, optical or coax. And sorry if I'm not pointing to the right fucking thing. But suffice it to say, whether you're using digital 1 or digital 2, you can only use one of those, optical or coax. You can't have 2 things plugged into them. In fact, I tried it, and if you try to have 2 things plugged into one input, it doesn't want to work properly. But yeah, there's a ground switch. There's also an extension jack, which is what this USB is for. It's for this, which is actually basically a Bluetooth dongle. That works actually really well, surprisingly well, as a matter of fact. I was thinking there would be issues with it, but there's not. Of course, you've got balanced out as well as unbalanced out. Of course, you've got a built-in headphone amp in here. Of course, here's your jack here. You also have your volume control. And, you know, I never had one of these when they were new, so I don't know. This one is really tight. I mean, like really tight. So I almost wonder if there's something wrong with this one in terms of maybe it was banged or something like that. This is coincidentally also a button. You also have a filter as well as a phase. Basically, if you press it, you can change the filter settings. You have, I think, linear, minimum, and steep. And then if you press and hold it, it will invert the phase to the audio signal. But yeah, that's basically it. Overall construction is basic Cambridge audio in the sense that it's decent. It's nothing to really write home about in terms of sound or build quality. But overall, it's pretty good. And that's my experience with Cambridge audio overall. Truthfully, I've never been the hugest fan of Cambridge audio from a build quality perspective, because of the fact that a lot of their products I've had over the years have had issues. This one works though, so, you know, yeah, there you go. But anyway, let's talk about sound. So, sound quality is kind of funny with the Cambridge Audio Dac Magic Plus. It is actually fairly neutral, surprisingly so. You know, I was thinking it might be a little bit warmer. I know Cambridge Audio over the last, since about 2020, since right before the pandemic, and they released their newer series, because they used to have the Topaz and the Azure line. If you guys remember, they had the Topaz series, which was their budget products, and then they had the higher priced Azure. And then going all the way back to the 90s, they had the Azure, as a matter of fact. But suffice it to say, those products, and I've heard quite a few of them, always came across as very neutral sounding, almost to the point of being kind of boring and even a little bright. Their modern line, like the AX series and the CX series, as well as the, I haven't heard the EX, but you know, their newer series definitely come across as warmer sounding. And I was hoping that this one, because they made it for several years, but it definitely lends kind of the old style Cambridge audio in the sense that it's very kind of neutral sounding. Great sound staging though. That's one aspect of Cambridge audio I think they've always gotten right, regardless of product of theirs that I've heard, is sound staging, left to right balance, player placement. These sorts of things are absolutely exquisite, really, truly. They do a good job for their budget. I think beating out quite a lot of competitors in that respect. Overall, it's neutral. I mean, it doesn't really favor anything. It does technically have a sound. It's not that type of neutral. It comes across as sort of brightish sounding. But you know, you get a lot of great detail here, and I think that's where this thing, in my opinion, it's kind of its standout feature, is it's very detail oriented. You hear into the music, you know. I was listening to an album, a Freddie Hubbard album called The Hub of Hubbard, came out on the German label MPS back in I think 73 or 74. And, you know, there's a point in there where I forget what song it is, but it's on side B, where you can kind of, well, you know, it's on the album, not side. I have the record, but I was talking about listening to it through the DAC. Anyway, I'm getting myself confused. You know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning where I'm at. But yeah, so I streamed it and I was listening to it, and yeah, and there's a point where you feel like you can kind of hear them, you know, shuffling in their chairs. And that I think that was where I was going with the whole vinyl thing, is on my vinyl version, you can't hear it. But on this, you feel like you can kind of hear them moving around a little bit through this. And that's where the detail aspect comes in. You know, it's very detail oriented. But yeah, I like the sound overall. Like I said, it's definitely that classic Cambridge audio sound, and that it's kind of neutral, doesn't really favor anything. But overall, I like it. So that is it for the Cambridge Audio Dac Magic Plus. It is a little bit of an older model. If you really want one, you can seek one out. I would go to US Audio Mart. You know, if you're in the US, of course. If you're in the UK, you can probably find them a little bit easier. They do pop up every now and again, it's kind of hard to sort of say, oh, I forgot to talk about the headphone. The headphone is okay. It retains 99% of the sound quality I talked about, a very neutral sound, not really favoring any one thing or the other, but great detail. But it doesn't have a lot of power to it. You know, I was using some basic, I should have got them for the video, fuck. Well, anyway, I was using some basic over-the-ear, the Koss headphones, the Porta Pros. They're actually one of my favorite headphones I've ever had. I mean, really, truly. And they don't necessarily pair well with this, just because the Koss Porta Pros tend to be neutral, and then this is neutral, so it's neutral. But suffice it to say, you know, that's my only criticism with the headphone, is that it's just not very, it doesn't really put out a lot of gas. But yeah, other than that, but yeah, like I said before, this is going to be one of my last videos. And then I want to do a final video on the channel as kind of sort of a farewell, you know, and the farewell video is going to be me doing a tour of the Pensacola record stores. I've been wanting to do that for about a year. Matter of fact, about a year ago, I called all the record stores in town. I know everyone, you know, on a personal level, you know, pull my foot up. I know everybody on a personal level, and I was thinking it'd be sweet to do like a sort of, I'm not going to call it a promotion, but just sort of my favorite record stores in Pensacola. And honestly, it's all of them, but I go to different ones for different reasons. And then combine that with the antique stores in town. And also there's a guy 50 miles away in a small town that, you know, runs out of a flea market called Crazy Bob. I know it's Crazy Bob, but Crazy Bob, he sells records, and go over there and basically, you know, go through the antique stores, go through the Pensacola record stores, and use that as kind of a showcase for Pensacola vinyl, that type of thing, you know, Northwest Florida vinyl, and then, excuse me, and then also kind of use that as sort of a farewell for my channel. I am going to leave my channel up, you know, and kind of leave it going. I'm going to turn off any notifications or that sort of thing. That way I don't even have to think about it anymore. But, you know, so the stuff I have created, people can watch and people can still consume, and if they want to and they like to, and those sorts of things. But anyway, this video has gone on far too fucking long. So anyway, peace out and stay tuned.